Hey there, welcome to the Graced Health Podcast, your source for aging strong in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. My name is Amy Connell. I'm a weight neutral certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who loves walks with friends, chocolate, and Jesus. Whether you're looking to grow stronger as you age, nourish your body, mind, and spirit, or fit all the pieces of your health together to holistically thrive, this is the place for women over 40. I'm here to guide you in the areas I can and bring on experts in the areas I'm still learning. And of course, we cover it all in a whole lot of grace. I'm glad you're here. Okay, this is something relatively new. I've just been doing it a few seasons, and it has been a lot of fun for me. This is a season recap. We just finished season 20, and what I'm going to do today is take the 19 episodes we had throughout season 20, and these are just for the main episodes. These don't include the Graced Health Plus, which is a subscription only. So if you're pulling up your player and you see a little lock on it, those are locked if you are not a subscriber. But the good news is anyone can subscribe. So you can find out how to do that down below. But I'm just going to be taking the 19 episodes and pulling them together into a few categories. And new this season, I'm going to take the one simple thing that each one of my guests has offered. So some of these are solos, some of these are with guests. And for the ones with the guests, you get to hear a quick clip of their one simple thing for us to remember. And if you are interested in going back and listening to any of these episodes, the best place to do that is to go to gracedhealth.com/podcast. This will reroute you to a third-party provider I use called Podpage. At Podpage, you can go up to the upper right-hand corner and you can filter on the episodes by season. These are all in season 20 with the exception of one, and I guess I mistyped and I wrote season 28. So I have corrected that in the back end, and I don't know if that will populate up into Podpage. Hopefully it will. But that is how you can find those. And by the way, while you're at Podpage, over on the right-hand side, you'll see a little thing that says, leave a voicemail. All you have to do is just click on that. It'll take you a few clicks. It's super simple, super quick. And if you would leave me a voicemail and let me know how you like these season recaps, I would greatly appreciate it. Or if there's just something else you want to know, or if you have a show idea, just any kind of feedback. It's just fun for me to get those. I hardly ever get them. And this is your invitation, just put it out there. Okay, let's jump into season 20. We had a wide variety of categories, so I'm going through somewhat chronologically. The first episode we released was episode 1, and this was Cultivate Joy Through Movement Beyond the Gym with Lisa DeCam. Lisa is a physical therapist, and she just brought such peace to movement. I know so many of us have complicated relationships with exercise. So many of us have only used exercise as a way of managing our body. She talked to us a lot about being in tune and attuned to our body. And I just got so much wonderful feedback. Here's Lisa's one simple thing.
To take a brief moment on a daily basis to listen to what your body is telling you. Build that relationship by listening.
Next up in the movement category was episode 5. And of course, when I say these episode numbers, they're all under season 20. So if I just say the episode number, know that I mean season 20 ahead of it. Episode 5 was plantar fasciitis, your guide to treatment, causes, and my personal prevention playbook. This was a solo episode, and I offered you some of the reasons that may be causing your plantar fasciitis. Of course, I do try to stay within the scope of my practice. And if you have had chronic problems, obviously see a physician or someone who can help you. But I get questions about plantar fasciitis a lot, so I thought it was worth doing. And then in the show notes of that, I also provide a link to a YouTube video where you can go and do a few stretches. Episode 7 was also a solo episode called Say Goodbye to Knee Pain with Strength and Flexibility. Okay, knee pain is more and more common the older we get. I feel like I have been so lucky that I haven't really had any issues. I think some of that is because I had good health professionals early on who educated me about the importance of the things that I talked to you about in episode 7. So if you have had knee pain and you want to strengthen some of the muscles that support your knees, go listen to that. Moving on to our second category, I am calling this mindset and mental health. So we'll just kind of put them both together. Episode 2 was with Sonia Mack. Sonia is a life coach for her own company that empowers busy mom professionals to just get rid of that mental clutter that we all have and live the whatever it is that God created them for. I loved this conversation with her, and she provides a lot of applicable information, and you're going to hear that a lot today, and just dealing with our mental clutter. Here's Sonia's one simple thing.
Find a mentor. Whatever it is that you are going through, there's someone out there who can help you through it. And I think so often, especially as busy moms, and if we're type A like I am, you think you can do it all yourself. But the truth is that God created all of us to be helping somebody, right? To use our gifts like we talked about in the pre-show, really. And so finding a mentor, somebody who can help you through what you're going through, whether that be, like I said, someone at your church, spiritual director, a coach, therapist, somebody, some kind of a mentor, just to help you through.
In episode 4, I invited my colleague Carrie Ann Madden on to talk about master your mindset as you navigate menopause and beyond. Carrie does a lot of work with women in our age group. She's a personal trainer. She's a precision nutrition coach, and does a lot of work around mindset. I mean, the reality is, we can do all the movements, we can eat all the food, but if our mind isn't right and if we don't have the why, then we are not going to have as much success in whatever our goals are. I really appreciated this conversation with Carrie Ann, and actually have gotten to know her even better since then. And it's just been such a joy. She's a wonderful resource. So go check Carrie out. She also has a great free download for women going through menopause, trying to navigate that. And I encourage you to go get that if you are in that season and need a little bit of assistance. Here is Carrie Ann's one simple thing.
I want to go back to that curiosity and compassion. I think that those have been the biggest helps for me and my clients, is to become curious about our mindsets and just the way that we're approaching this stage in our life, and where can we have compassion while we're trying to gain traction on the changes that we want to make.
In episode 6, we had Danielle Burnock join us in the episode entitled Transcending Trauma Through Understanding and Self-Compassion. Danielle shares her experience with the side effects of trauma and helps us understand how unresolved trauma may show up in our body. So this is a great one to listen to if you want to learn more. Here is Danielle's one simple thing.
Love is the answer. God is love, and your podcast is Grace to Health, dealing with health. The Bible says that Jesus came to give us life, and that abundantly. And if we won't love ourselves and deal with our trauma, we won't live in health. Our health will suffer if we don't let that love come in and heal us from the inside out. The tagline on my website is connecting people to the love that heals. And he heals us inside out, top to bottom, skin to marrow, head to toe.
And finishing out the mindset and mental health category was last week's episode 19 with Angie Bowman. The episode was entitled Finding Solid Ground, Angie Bowman on surviving abuse and managing triggers. And wow, was this a good one? It was such an incredible story. Angie shared her story of being groomed into a relationship with a high school teacher at age 16, and then just the healing that that God has done and continues to do. And we talk some about how she has learned to identify and deal with triggers that has once she figured that out, has improved her parenting and other relationships. Here is Angie's one simple thing.
There's no substitute for time with Jesus. I think everything that he has taught me, all the healing that I've been through, everything has come from a commitment of spending time in his word and with him, and connecting with him is the answer to whatever it is we're going through. I just believe that with all my heart.
The next category I am calling diet culture pushback. And really, episode 8 could have gone in the mindset and mental health. And in fact, my guest, Melissa Johnson, is a counselor, but I just thought that this one was better suited for the diet culture pushback category for season 20. The episode was called Discovering the Breath of Life and Soul Deep Beauty. Melissa is the author of a book called Soul Deep Beauty. And if you are wanting to explore our beauty, our worth, our identity outside of how society creates it or has the expectation, this is definitely a book that you want on your bedside table. I just loved this conversation with Melissa. Here is her one simple thing.
Beauty is so much bigger than our culture teaches us. If beauty truly is the life of God at work in us and among us, we can't even begin to imagine how big that is. If we can imagine those awe-inspiring moments in nature where we feel so small and God feels so big, but like in a really beautiful way. I would encourage us to maybe think about that kind of imagery when we imagine like what authentic beauty is and how big and glorious it is and how we are actually invited into that reality to be a part of it. And that same beauty is actually in us.
Episode 9 was a solo episode where I took a study I came across and found very interesting that basically took some health conditions that people were trying to work on, a handful of them, whether they were blood glucose, they were your cholesterol and lipid panels. I mean, there were several health metrics that we are all interested in, or most of us are interested in. And it did an analysis of these studies of when we were trying to address, say, high cholesterol, if we did so from a weight loss perspective or a weight neutral perspective. And you can probably guess the thesis of this episode, since I'm putting it in the diet culture pushback category, but I still think it's worth listening to, particularly if you are having challenging conversations with a physician or someone who is really focused on the scale. It might be a good one to offer. And of course, that's one where I would take the actual article, not necessarily the episode, to your physician or whenever you're going to have that conversation, but I do link that study. In episode 14, my friend Heather Creekmore joined me. Heather is the host of the Compared to Who podcast, and she does body image coaching from a biblical perspective. She's also the author of the book Aging Gratefully, which is a 30-day devotion. It's a great one to have on your bedside table and winding down, just setting our mind right. It is not necessarily just on diet culture, but Heather is alongside with me and other people. Heather is really trying to push back on diet culture. So that's why it's in this category, but it could have gone in anything, and it is aging focused. So there's a lot of other things on there besides body image, but it's a good one. Here is Heather's one simple thing.
Aging is natural, and God's not surprised by it. You have not aged out of relevance.
Episodes 15 and 16, I'm going to lump together and tell you about each one of them, but it was a 2-part manifesto, maybe, that I did. Episode 15 was called My Arsenal to Fight and Overcome My Current Body Image Battles. And episode 16 was entitled I've Gained Perimenopause Weight, Why I'm Not Trying to Lose It. And I have to say, many of you reached out to me privately and just said, hey, thanks. I really needed to hear these words. And that meant so much. I really appreciate any kind of feedback, but particularly when I'm putting something out there as vulnerable as that was. Those were hard to make. And I am glad that they resonated with you. If you are like me and you have been challenged with some perimenopausal weight, I encourage you to go listen to both of those. So the first one is like, this is what I am pulling up and trying to fight with. And the second is the data and the research behind why I'm not trying to lose weight. Am I focusing on other things? Yes, but it is not attached to weight loss. Okay, next up in the nutrition category, I actually did not have as many conversations strictly about food this season, but the ones that I did, oh boy, I just loved them. Episode 10 was Lifting More Than Weights, Zach Lloyd's battle against binge eating and addiction. I joked on the episode that Zach is not our typical guest. He is a millennial male. And I don't think that we have a lot of those on here. In fact, he might be the only one, but his story is incredible. I camp out probably for too long learning his story with addiction. And when he says addiction, he's talking about alcohol, drugs, oxy, which is really scary. And then how God redeemed that and how he is now helping others in a diet culture free way to take care of themselves. Here is Zach's one simple thing.
This is hard, but I really, over the years have, in my bio, you said, I'm driven to help others find meaning and fulfillment in suffering through fitness. I wouldn't be half the person I am today without all of the suffering. And to be clear, that was suffering I basically chose. So don't feel sorry for me. But no matter where someone is, I hope after hearing this, wherever you are now, no matter how dark of a place you're in, no matter how high the mountain looks, you can overcome it. And there is hope. And having just that glimmer of hope, that's what I hope you take from today.
In episode 18, eating psychology coach and culinary nutritionist Jenny Eden Burke came on. The episode was titled Cultivating Trust, Managing Fear, and Meal Planning Through It All. And boy, did her eating psychology shine through in this. I just loved her gentle approach, her curious approach to eating. Of course, she has a complicated backstory with eating, like in her body, like so many of us do. And I just thought she brought such rich wisdom to the food conversation that we all need to have beyond nutrients and all of the other things that go along with food. Here's Jenny's one simple thing.
The word that really resonated with me today is the word trust. And I think that if you can cultivate trust and communication with yourself by slowing down, by the power of pause, and by learning some techniques, whether it's vagal tone exercises or, breathing exercise, yoga, really learning some self-care tools to help regulate your nervous system is going to be a really easy and not easy, but it's a really great way to start. And I think that when you start to implement some of those things, you cultivate that deeper relationship with yourself. And that leads to trust and communication and really feeling like you know yourself and you know what's right for you. And that's very liberating and very empowering. So I would say definitely that's the path, is to challenge those voices that say you can't trust yourself and start to really listen and find out where your innate wisdom is, because it's absolutely there and it's there to guide you and nourish you and help you find the foods that are best for you.
We had a couple episodes that I didn't really know where to put in because they are a bit different than what we typically talk about, but I thought was important to have in our holistic focus here on the show. Episode 2 was about skincare with Natalie Bevins. That episode was titled Transformative Skincare Beyond the Surface for Lifelong Luminance. Natalie gives us some great suggestions for taking care of our skin as they age and really focuses on just helping us have radiant skin from the inside out. And I know that you will love to hear what she has to say. Here's her one simple thing.
Your skin is an organ and it is trying to serve you. No matter what condition it's in right now, it is trying to serve you, and it just needs all the tools so that it can serve you. And when it is serving you in the way that is the most healthy, your skin will be glowing and it will look the way you want it to.
The other episode in our miscellaneous category was focused on empty nesting. Yes, that is right, because my youngest just graduated from high school. I invited retired empty nester Kathy Laudansky on to talk about adjusting and thriving in empty nesting. She was so kind and gracious and gave me a lot of excitement for the time that my husband and I are going to have. I know a handful of you are also empty nesting with me or will be doing so relatively soon. So go listen to that episode with Kathy. Here's her short and sweet one simple thing that just gave me so much encouragement.
You're going to be fine. You're going to be great.
Rounding out our category is that of your core strength. What is your core strength, you ask? Well, that's my new book. I did write it though not for you. I'm so sorry, but I did write it for your daughters. After I wrote Your Worthy Body, I had a lot of moms coming to me saying, I need something like this for my daughters. So I listened and I did that. I have worked with young girls, teen girls in various capacity, whether it is through doing fitness coaching or nutrition coaching, all kinds of various ways. And it just seemed like time. So I took 3 episodes right before the book released and talked about your core strength. Episode 11 was actually a refresh and rewind with counselor Christina Chismar. This was before I started doing the One Simple Things. So I don't have the One Simple Thing, but the episode was titled Raising Our Daughters with a Healthy Body Image. This came out right when COVID hit. And so I think it got buried, but I reference it all the time and she has wonderful wisdom. So if you have a young daughter or a teen daughter, this is definitely a great one to go listen to. Episode 12 was Before You Buy, 5 Things You Need to Know About Your Core Strength. This was a solo episode. And in it, if you are interested in purchasing your core strength for your child, I give you a few things that I want you to know. And I also have a link to the Parents Guide. You can get your own parents guide at gracedhealth.com/parents-guide. And there you'll kind of get a high level. So if you're wondering what your daughter is reading and you want to be aligned with that and make sure that you are supporting her in all the right ways, that's a great resource for you. You can go purchase that there. It's just $5, but it is kind of a Cliff Notes version. I tell them, they'll know what that means. The parents, you guys will know what that means. The girls may not. And then in episode 13, which was the day before Your Core Strength came out, I released the audio version because I do have an audio book to the introduction and chapter 8. Chapter 8 was titled, How Can I Take Care of My Mental Health? This was something that the early readers indicated they really wanted to know more about. So obviously, I do stay within my scope of practice with that as well, but I am so glad that Your Core Strength was not just focusing on food and fitness, but on everything, which, by the way, is E from the acronym CORE. E stands for everything, not just food and fitness contributes to our health. So I tried to give them a wide variety of ways that they can take care of themselves. And one of those is mental health. So if you're interested in listening, or if you have a child who is interested in the book, but doesn't want to commit, maybe go listen to those 2 and you can make a decision from there. By the way, this book is just as applicable to guys as it is girls for the most part. I do talk about menstrual cycles, which I know can make guys a little squirmy, but let's talk about it and normalize it. And like I said, in a guy's guide that I made for a colleague of mine who is doing a workshop for guys and girls, and she is using the book. Look, dudes, if you've got a mom, a sister, if you've got other girls in your life, like this is something that you might want to know. So hopefully it doesn't make them too uncomfortable. And by the way, if you have already purchased Your Core Strength, I hate using this word, but I'm going to use it. I am desperate for some reviews on Amazon. At the time of this recording, I have one. Amazon is kind of funny when you write a review. So if you purchased it from a retailer or an outlet other than Amazon, they're going to be suspicious. And so what I have found is a good workaround is just be honest and say, I purchased this from a different retailer, or I purchased this at a book event or from the author. And typically, if you say something like that, then they are more forgiving and they will let that review come through. And also, if you happen to have a child who is attending maybe a Christian high school or in an organization that would appreciate me coming in and talking to them not only about applicable ways of taking care of themselves with their eating, with their movement, with their sleep, with their relationships, but also from a Christ-centered perspective, I would love a letter of introduction. What you can do is contact me one way, either email, which is just do gracedhealth@gmail.com, or DM me on the socials, and I can give you a template that you can take and customize. Sometimes it's just really hard to know like how to get started. So I can help you along, know what to say, but I would love any kind of email introduction to decision makers in your school, whether it's principals, athletic directors, pastors, anything like that. Okay, there is your season 20 recap. By the way, I am reducing my time on the socials over the summer. If you rely on Instagram or Facebook to kind of find out about what the episode is and do you want to listen to it, there will be nothing there. However, I will still be emailing just once a week an episode update where you will get any kind of links that are available through the episode and a little sneak peek about it. So if you have not yet signed up to get the podcast updates, go do that. The link is in the show note, or you can just go to gracedhealth.com/podcast. And there is a form right there on my pod page where you can also leave me a voicemail, by the way, remember that. And I will be sending you episode updates. Okay, that's it for season 20. Stay tuned. Season 21 is coming up, and we are going to be digging into each of the 10 intuitive eating principles. I said back in season 19, I kind of put a stake in the sand and said, we are an intuitive eating focused show. And so we're going to dig into each one of those. And I've done probably half of the interviews so far. I've really tried to ask the hard questions. I'm trying not to just give a bunch of softballs and provide some pushback, because I know that there is some. So I invite you to tune in to each one of those episodes so we can all kind of restart in the fall with that background, with that knowledge behind us, and with the confidence that we are taking care of our body in a holistic and peaceful and diet culture free way, which I do believe is what God wants for us. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.